Welcome to Strawberry Ink, where we document the stories written in pain, protests, and a pursuit of justice. Today's story begins just 3 days before Christmas. It was December 22nd, 2020, when a black man named Andre Hill was doing something kind. He was dropping off Christmas money at a friend's house in Columbus, Ohio, the greater Columbus area. But just minutes later, he would be shot by a police officer and left to die on the garage floor. This is the story of Andre Hill and the prosecution of former Columbus, Ohio police officer Adam Coy. On this night, the initial call to the police was not about Andre. It was about a vehicle that kept going off, making noise, and would not let the caller sleep. This caller, an annoyed neighbor, called law enforcement only to report that. In order for that phone call to not be heard of and expressed or displayed in such a silly way, this caller claimed that the vehicle looked suspicious. The engine of this car was starting and stopping repeatedly. That was according to the caller, but really, that was just the alarm of that car. Two officers of the Columbus Division of Police arrived at this northwest neighborhood. The officers were Adam Coy and Amy Detweiler. When identifying the car, they saw an open garage nearby and assumed that the car's owner might be in there. As they approached that open garage, a black man slowly emerged from the garage. This middle-aged man was Andre Hill. He was calm and unarmed. But one of the police officers, Coy, did not approach him calmly. He raised his gun. Behind was Officer Detweiler, who was also aggressive with him, but not physically, verbally. Andre, trying to show that he had nothing threatening on him, put his hand in his pocket and took out his phone as well as his car keys. Coy claims that he thought those car keys were a gun. Without warning, Officer Adam Coy fired. Andre collapsed, bleeding, dying, still holding his phone, and the whole time he was unarmed. Neither Coy nor Detweiler offered first aid, no CPR, no pressure to the wound. They just stood there and waited for him to die. They did not care, as Andre Hill was black. Eventually, the actual owner of the car was identified. This owner came out to shut the alarm off, and the owner was not Andre. Andre had nothing to do with that car. These two police officers killed him for no reason. Andre Hill, once medical personnel arrived, was rushed to the Riverside Methodist Hospital in the greater Columbus area. But it was too late. There was a chance to save him. However, the officers chose to do nothing, so he died later that evening. Public outrage was immediate. Both officers were suspended. Investigations began. That suspension was without pay, and the investigations were led by both the Franklin County Sheriff's Office as well as the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Within a week, Adam Coy was fired. However, Amy Detweiler was reinstated and continues working to this day as a police officer. By the end of the year, only one police officer was disciplined at the work level and placed under investigation. That officer was Adam Coy. Only he was tied to a criminal probe, and that probe was within the state of Ohio. This police department is known for being one of the most lousy and bad law enforcement agencies in the country. They are really a waste of tax money. They take so long to respond to calls and do not respond appropriately. What happened in this case? Look at every single police report within the last 10 years, and there is proof that the department is lousy in every one of those police reports. All officers are being taught to do the wrong stuff. On February 1st, 2021, the Franklin County District Attorney, Gary Tyack, presented evidence of that probe to a grand jury at the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. That grand jury reviewed the evidence and indicted Coy on 4 charges: murder, second-degree felonious assault, as well as 2 misdemeanors, second-degree duty dereliction. Just hours later, Tyack unsealed the indictment and ordered that Coy surrender to authorities. Coy, beside his private attorney Mark Collins, surrendered at the Franklin County Sheriff's Office headquarters. From there, he was transported to what was known back then as the Franklin County Jail, but today it is named the Jackson Pike Jail. At least that's how I call it, as the county has built more facilities in different locations. The next day, Coy appeared before Common Pleas Magistrate Eliza Sakin. He pleaded not guilty to the charges and was granted a $3 million bond. Prosecutor Anthony Pearson, a seasoned figure in Columbus, was appointed to try the case. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost also stepped in. He pushed for a second grand jury to consider additional charges, and they did. Coy was indicted again, this time for reckless homicide, a third-degree felony. Coy's private defense attorney submitted a not guilty plea for that new charge as well. Eventually, his assigned judge, Stephen McLintosh, lowered Coy's bond to $1 million. With that, Coy left jail. He had spent only a few days behind bars. This case was delayed for a while as Adam Coy was diagnosed with cancer and had been getting treated for that, having received several chemotherapy sessions at the James Cancer Hospital in Columbus of Ohio State University. Fast forward to October 2024. He was finally put on trial. Jury selection started on the 21st, and opening statements came 3 days later on the 24th. A day before that, a jury of 12 members and 4 alternates was seated and taken on a bus on a field trip to the scene where the shooting occurred. The jury then proceeded with those opening statements and listened to evidence from several witnesses, as well as investigators really looking into that case. Despite motions from the defense, Judge McLintosh refused to dismiss the case without a jury verdict. However, in a strategic move, Prosecutor Pearson agreed to drop the 2 misdemeanors in order to streamline the jury's deliberations and potentially make room for future federal charges against both of the respondent officers, Coy and Detweiler. During trial, Detweiler was present in court. Her actions, or lack thereof, under a microscope. She appeared nervous in the courtroom and had been sitting in the witness seats watching the trial. Then the following month, on November 4th, The jury reached its decision. Adam Coy was found guilty on his three felonies: murder, felonious assault, and reckless homicide. Bond was immediately revoked, and he was taken into custody. He was not even handcuffed. Attorney Collins, who was hired to represent charged police officers, was heard saying, "Do what they tell you to do." This defense attorney tried to have Adam Coy continue to remain free, as he had several medications to take and had lots of appointments he had to assist. However, the judge did not sign into that. The deputies took his medications with him to his facility to await sentencing. But the story does not end there. Adam Coy, now a convicted murderer who leaves his facility for cancer treatment, made attempts to have clemency be brought upon him. His defense motioned for a new trial, and that is what delayed the case further. Throughout those months, he remained with no sentence at the James Carnes Detention Center in Columbus. On June 30th, 2025, Judge McLintosh denied Adam Coy a new trial. This judge was reelected on election day when the presidential election was going on, a day after this verdict, to continue serving for that court. Therefore, he would remain in the case and could bring Adam Coy to justice. He has since appealed to the higher courts, and that matter is pending. We will see what happens later on. Throughout those delays, a new prosecutor was elected. Gary Tyack was taken out. The new prosecutor is Shayla Favors. With this new prosecutor coming into office, that meant that many of the assistants taking the role as trial prosecutors would leave office, including Prosecutor Pearson. However, DA Shayla Favors, who really looked into this case as she previously worked as a Columbus City Council member, allowed Pearson to continue working freelance and to continue participating in these officer-involved shooting cases. Shayla Favors claimed that these kinds of defendants would be tried at the fullest extent of the law, no matter what role they had in society, and that she would make sure her office took only the most important cases, not unnecessary cases that waste the tax money of the citizens. She even hired a defense attorney in private practice to review documents and decide which case passes, which does not. But the story does not end here. Adam Coy is currently dying behind bars of cancer. He was sentenced on July 28, 2025. Assistant Prosecutor Renee Amlin was now mainly handling the case, with Anthony Pearson helping out freelance, as I previously mentioned. This was a sign of dignity and closure. Judge McLintosh issued the sentence, a prison term of 15 years to life. That was for the felony murder charge. The rest was vacated. Andre Hill died just days before Christmas, doing something generous. He did not have any weapons with him. He did not commit a crime. He showed his hands, his phone, and his car keys, being met with deadly force. His family will never get him back. But now, they have something many victims' families never do: a conviction, a sentence, a record of accountability. Whether it's enough, that's a question only they can answer. But here on Strawberry Ink., we ask a different one. How many more Andre Hills? How many more verdicts will it take? And why has this police department not been reformed? The family of Andre Hill gathered for a private visitation a day before Epiphany in 2021 on the 5th of January at the First Church of God in Columbus. This was also a mass. It was organized by the Chapel of Peace building of the Marlon Gary Funeral Home, their staff. This was a private service due to COVID. However, it was accessible online and many joined in support. Andre Hill was cremated. He is now reunited with his mom, Pamela, who died in 2013. It is important to point out that Andre Hill was not fully black, he was mixed. Back in the Jim Crow years, mixed people were treated the worst, maybe even worse, than people fully black. Adam Coy's family lives in Milford Center, and he is currently at the state prison in Toledo, Ohio, after having been evaluated at the reception center in Orient. Thank you for listening and have a good rest of your day.